Here we go.
This ain't gonna make the reel, but we talked about it this morning. I just had to go.
I cannot believe you did that.
Just had to break the ice.
I'm
this
just
morning.
looking out into the distance.
All right, so favorite Eddie Murphy movie.
Oh man,
Say that 3 times fast.
Coming to America, but I would say it's getting close to Trading Places too. I love those 2 movies from my childhood.
Okay, so when we were talking this,
Hercules.
no, that's
Nutty, that's Nutty Professor.
Hercules.
Yeah, those are classic.
And that little kid, he's putting that salt on the
Yeah.
and she's like rubbing his back.
She rolls up in church, Granny does, on her little scooter, and he said, well, if it ain't the Alzheimer's Express, right on schedule. Their banter.
We've been watching mating season on the Serengeti. Me and Isaac.
Lord Stone Phillips. He said, I keep having a fantasy about Stone Phillips in a tobacco barn.
Is it Stone Phillips or Mike?
She might add, but I know Stone Phillips is one of them.
He's like, and in that dream, we're going at it like 2 mice in a wool sock.
He said, what was it? She goes, in church, she's like, Cletus, I'd like to choke you right in front of Jesus.
That's how I feel about Cliff sometimes.
That's where she holds up that noodle. She's like, "Yes, remind you of anything? Maybe Miss Johnson." So in Trading Places, whenever they're trying to set the old guys up and get the crop report, remember when they're in the van and they're all dressed up? Isn't Eddie Murphy? He's playing an African goat herder in that. He comes in, he's sitting in the car, and he's like, "Hell in my head, nah," and he's got that little stick, and he's got
That's
the
pretty
hat
good.
on. Hell in my head, and then what's her name? She's dressed up like she's like, "Will you help me with my hook sack?" And I forget what the other guys are, but I don't know. I just
You guys
came up
spend
because
your life watching movies. I mean, you just got it in your brain. It's like tattooed there.
Hey,
I mean,
good
it's
ones are
classic.
worth
I mean,
remembering.
I feel
Man.
like some of these are what like shape the culture today. Really.
Hercules.
All right, we'll quit talking about our favorite movies. Jump into another episode of Misfit Social Podcast, and we're gonna talk about herding today. Not goat herding,
No.
but
Herding.
what herding is like.
Herding.
A few episodes ago, we talked about Paul having a buffalo appear before him after his ayahuasca right in his living room.
That
Try
story
to
is
dumb down
wrong.
my spiritual experiences.
No, ayahuasca it's spiritual.
What's funny is that's how legend grows. You know, it's like
Yeah.
he
Hey,
has
if-
his experience.
If you just keep saying it,
right,
people
And
are
then-
going to be like, dude, I didn't know Cook was into ayahuasca and shit like that.
I know.
It's like, yeah, man, he's really out there. I mean,
No, he had a real experience,
and it
but then
all
we
started
had
with going to the movies. I mean,
and then we had like a buffalo appeared at the foot of his bed and said, "Go north,
Go
to
north.
Fargo, young man."
go north, White Santa.
And then he puffed one more time upon the pipe.
I think
None
my
of
job
that.
in this podcast is just to look at y'all and just go,
And
Hold
shake
it.
your head and be
Hold
like,
it.
we're actually examining how legends form.
oh,
Herding.
So you brought up an interesting point about how did you phrase that about the herd having a healthy herd? That's not what you said. You had a much cooler phrase.
herd mentality.
Yeah, and I think it started, and all jokes aside, there's no ayahuasca involved, and the buffalo didn't appear at the foot of the bed. I think that's legend. I mean, that's myth. That's part of the myth, you know.
Okay.
But I mean, none of us can prove it. I mean,
Yeah,
only Paul
was there,
only Paul could prove it.
but it's his truth.
But we were talking because this is all in all legitimacy has been like a symbol, a sign, and it's been and it speaks to me like when you shared it with me, it's really spoken to me and resonates. And so we get to talking about how they are a herd animal, but we live in such a hyper individualistic culture that we almost look at all herding as something toxic. And I was just
But what was that phrase you had? It wasn't healthy herd. It was something else. The power of the herd or something.
I'm trying to remember.
All right. Well, you had listened to another podcast, and there was some conversation in there about how, don't be sucked into groupthink. Don't be, in a herd, basically like pushing away from being
Yeah.
in a herd and pushing more into, you do your thing, and
Yes.
that herds can actually be harmful, and maybe that's a point.
Yeah. Because you'll be whatever you herd with. That's how the brain works. So I think the neuroscience is pretty clear. But this is what I was bringing out is I'm seeing more and more reels and things speaking negatively of being a part of a herd.
Yeah.
But I would propose that that's anti-human. There are toxic herds and there's healthy herds. We need a healthy herd where it will still honor your distinction, but you're a part of something bigger than just you. Identity actually comes from a group. It doesn't come from our individual discovery. We are informed in our brain by the groups that we're attached to. So if you're just going to try and fly solo,
Yeah.
you're going to be less than who you're truly meant to be.
Yeah. And so like with Paul's deal where we were talking about the Buffalo Trail and how they migrate like that, they, from a nature perspective, they're herding together, and there's some order to that, right?
Yeah, yeah. They go through those routines and seasons that are pretty predictable, and routines that that migratory behavior is real. It's baked in, So they go in those cycles, and they have ways that they do it. The bulls on the outside, the calves and the cows on the inside, protection. They're about impervious to predators because of just that mass of flesh, 2,000-pound
Yeah.
buffaloes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I've ever thought about humans being herd or pack. I guess pack would be another way we'd describe that. Or if we're talking about birds, we'd be saying
Tribal.
flock.
Tribal would
well,
be a
we
word.
would say tribal. So we definitely have that. That is probably in our nature, wouldn't you think? That's kind of
Absolutely
pulling
is.
us to that. But it seems like if you're listening to a lot of mainstream, like if you're looking at the top trending podcast of what's going on, there is a big push for more. I'm not going to do that. Like I'm going to be my own. I'm going to be true to myself. Statements like it's going to be okay. Well, that's your truth, but this is my truth.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that phrase in of itself is completely irrelevant or not correct, but it certainly would make one less coachable, and it would be harder for you to work in a herd if somebody that's within the herd or the pack or the tribe is like the Yoda, and you're like, well, Yoda, I know that's your truth, but this is not my truth. I mean, can you imagine that being in the Jedi Order? That would never happen, right?
Right.
So there, where do we think that's coming from? Because it would almost seem that it's against nature for us to be moving in that direction. What do we feel like is kind of driving that?
Well, so the U.S. Constitution is a breakthrough document in human history that provides for individual rights, and I couldn't be more thankful for it.
Right.
And while still the majority of the world lives in collectivist cultural rhythms, not individualistic rhythms, collectivist, it doesn't mean that all collectivism gets it right either.
Yeah.
The thing is that our prosperity in the West, along with the breakthrough of individualism, there is some benefit there. It just has, according to a lot of sociologists, it's untethered itself from an us, the group identity, in all healthy ways.
Okay.
It's so individualistic that it's becoming unhealthy because and just a little bit more here, the right side of our brain, which is pre-conscious, actually starves and is looking for group connection. Well, if you've disconnected yourself from real physical groups, your brain is going to try and find that somewhere, and it's doing it through politics. It's doing it through social media. It's doing it through like synthetic forms. And that's informing your identity, but it's doing it before you're consciously aware of it. So we still need healthy bonds, strong friendships of people who talk, have dignity in their conversations, but they disagree, and we challenge each other
Right.
to be the best we are meant to be.
So the horses that we have back in Kentucky, have you ever heard of the term buddy sour?
Yes.
How a horse will get
yes.
buddy sour. So what happens is if they're in a big group, like if you put them out in the paddock and there's a bunch of them, they tend to not do that just because they are herd animals and they'll herd up. But if you pull one away from the herd, it's not necessarily a big deal. But if you just put two of them out there together, so I have two that are my personal horses, Ginger and Gronk. Crazy story about them. They're actually brother and sister, born the same year, same father, different mothers because they were in vitro. Actually born in certain different areas of the country.
Oh, wow.
So we actually bought them in two different areas at two different times. Pretty cool story.
Very cool.
Brother and sister from another mother.
That's right, literally. And so what's funny is Ginger, the female, she's not that bad, but Gronk, you pull Ginger out of that pen, and I mean, she can be where he can still see her. Like we can just be riding her in the arena, and he is losing his ever-loving mind. Like he just wants to be right where she's at. And the other day when Adam was in town and we were filming, we had another horse out that we were doing, another male horse, and we brought Ginger in there. And dude, they were ready. He was ready to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, no, that's my woman. But it's interesting to see their behavior about how they work together in herds and how they're protecting. And then you're never going to see a horse just be like, no, I just want to be off by myself. You know, that's not going to happen. So just from that perspective, I think from a human side, we have things that in our prosperity that allow us to be kind of in our rooms, be away. And I'm an introvert, so I love my time. Like I don't mind going to a coffee shop by myself to read or do whatever. I don't mind having a meal by myself, but I won't thrive if I'm by myself. Actually, my melancholy will start to come out if I'm by myself too much. Yeah. I need that rub from other people. And a
healthy herd would respect that, let you have that time, allow you distinction, but then reel you back or at least provide opportunity, you know what I'm saying, for you to have that connection to come back.
Where does groupthink, though? You know, groupthink is often a negative term, you know, like we come to conclusions with a group inside of a closed society and we have the wrong idea. You know, I mean, that can happen in herding in the toxic ways, right? We've seen it, lived it, had to break free from it.
Yep.
Well,
and that's why. Sorry, just to jump in. That was kind of where I wanted to go next. Was what qualifies? Hey, this is a healthy herd. To where like, hey, I want to be a part of that. And then how do you know that you're not like just being completely obnoxious and self-indulgent to be like, no, I'm leaving this herd. I'm gonna go start my own pack. You know, how do we differentiate that? And I know we've touched on spiritual maturity, but I think
that's where it goes.
But I think the challenge in today's society is that everything that we're looking at and listening to is becoming more and more tribalized into groupthink. It's like that's what we have in politics right now. That's I mean, if you listen, you'll find out very quickly. That's why we can't get bills passed in Congress, is because they stick to the pack. And whatever the herd says, and and if you get out, they'll kick you out. Like, I mean, we've seen that in politics within the last 3 or 4 years, and it's not pretty.
So there's got to be a guiding truth or some central idea that draws everybody together that they all attach to, that keeps them in a herd, right? Whether that idea is right or whether it's wrong. So I think in toxic situations, they've got a wrong idea, and in healthy ones, they've got a right idea. And so what you're driving at, if you're driving at truth, then you're going to decouple from things that, that are unhealthy. You're going to decouple. You're even going to decouple from relationships, from herds, from tribes. That's right. You're going to decouple if you find that the truth is, what you thought was sacrosanct is actually not viable.
Very well said. Toxic herds, toxic tribes, toxic groups tend to perpetuate low joy environments. And joy is not just happiness or dopamine, it's more serotonin. So it's the difference between eating ice cream, that we could just loosely call that dopamine, and then a good steak dinner with salad and all the other things with it, which would be serotonin. One's going to be a little more fleeting and not as healthy if it's perpetually what you eat, and then one's going to give you more satisfaction. So toxic groups will leverage joy because they're about control instead of thriving. So we could get more into that, but joy is I'm glad to be with you. And then
That's more satiating
yes.
than something that's a little
right.
trite.
It's not a flash in the pan kind of stuff, nor is it trying to be controlled. No one's trying to control you. And that thrives. The other thing that toxic groups don't have, they don't have eldership. True sense of a maturity, like think tribal eldership. That elder did not just get picked because they had a talent. They've been proven over time to make wise choices. When we have...
They didn't get picked because how many likes they have on Twitter?
No, or that they had a Insta fame or some fake life, that we all aspire to.
Yeah.
The community saw them, knew them, saw them through their mistakes, watched how they recovered. They have been proven by a community over time. When you have access to that kind of wisdom, you don't get into dumb ideas because they're filtered out. When you have that kind of maturity,
they've been proven.
They're proven.
And don't all of us have like a lexicon from people in our lives that had that role, right? We have this lexicon of things that we don't forget, phrases and things they
stick
said
to you.
Yeah, and they said them in a time that was necessary for you, and it was like it shifted something in you or codified something in you, and so you have that eldership. Actually, is posthumous too.
Oh yeah. It continues on.
Yes.
In the legacy of it.
Eldership, by its very nature, can't help but raise up more eldership, so it perpetuates. That's a healthy tribe or a healthy herd. One thing I want to say that Dr. Jim Wilder, his work, so he breaks down human maturity very simply in 5 stages: infant, child, adult, parent, elder. And not everybody's an elder, but you want to be near one.
So just before you keep rolling on that,
Yeah.
is that age brackets? Because that's what it sounds like.
Well, let me unpack it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
And it's simple.
Okay.
Infants cannot take care of self and cannot take care of others. You need to take care of them. Children can begin to take care of themselves, but don't put anyone else in their responsibility. They can't care for others. The adult, and so I want to jump in right here.
Categories. It's not necessarily age specific.
No, it's once they show aptitude.
Yeah.
And the community, a healthy herd, is looking at that going, hey, I think you're ready.
Yeah.
Let me give you some more responsibility. And you're actually developing deeper character.
Because you could actually have a younger child who just maybe matures a little bit faster, and they can take on a little bit more responsibility than another child who's even older than they are.
Perfectly said. And then whoever's just a little bit down on that mature scale is looking at that and wanting to help them take those steps so that they can grow and thrive and develop a healthy process in their own maturity. So here, I wanted to say with groupthink, those are typically governed by a large segment of adult maturity.
Groupthink.
You'll have a bunch of adults
in a good way.
the room. Let me
What
explain
if it's toxic?
Well, I'm saying what you call groupthink tends to be negative. It's because there's very little parental or eldership maturity available to that group. So they'll mire in groupthink at the adult maturity level. And let me explain what adult maturity is. Can take care of self, can take care of others, but doesn't count the cost of what caring for self and caring for others really requires of them. So they can tend to have anger, and so they will lead from trying to manage resources. Parental maturity can take care of self, can take care of others, but has counted the cost. And they know what they're getting into. They're not surprised by how hard it is to raise kids.
Yeah,
So
they're
now
not
I'm anxious to hear
Yeah.
what is the elder level.
Yeah, that adult piece sounds like me in my 20s. I can do some of those things, but still got anger issues, still a little bit selfish, still kind of looking at
Steering for your own purposes.
Yeah, this is what I'm doing this for me, a little bit self-indulgent, and may not even realize it at that point. Yeah.
And parents, adults is a great place of maturity to be, but they need access to parents and elders because that helps them get through the managing the anger part. Once you come to realize what it's like to care for other people and yourself effectively, it's expensive, it's hard. And just because you can do it doesn't mean you're ready to manage that overall.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too about the parent piece is you might have somebody that is a great parent at that, and they may not have ever even had kids,
Right.
but they have the ability to really succeed in that aspect.
You're nailing it. And so this is where age, according to Wilder and his teaching and methodology, comes in. At parental level, it's almost that age is required and elder. Because the elder, to finish the sequence, they can care for themselves and care for others across entire communities. And there is a capacity with the parent and elder that they've carved out in their life. They have capacity. So they probably don't have little kids to really elder well.
Yeah.
They've grown them. And now they have capacity to care for whole communities. And then when you can have access to someone who's got that much, I use a Southern phrase, corn in the crib, you're getting some wisdom, man. They've lived it out. And that's the benefit of a healthy herd.
That's funny. My dad, I was thinking of a story that's somewhat like that. Sitting in the driveway, getting ready to go somewhere. My dad's in the passenger seat. He's an elder. And my oldest is a toddler. And he was hard to raise. He was just self-willed and just, we didn't understand him. I mean, he's almost on the spectrum. Like, it was just, he was hard to raise. Like, I thought I knew what I was doing until I got, until we dealt with
And this was Preston?
Yeah.
Sorry, Preston.
Yeah.
I think you were a great child.
Oh,
Preston,
he's a wonderful adult.
He's amazing.
But he was difficult as a child.
He's a wonderful adult.
He really is.
I heard in that.
But so we're trying to back out, and he's standing in the door crying he wants to go. So I get out. I'm like, okay, you want to go? Well, he wants to go, but he also wants to stay.
Yeah. He just don't want you to go.
And so I'm like, well, just you come with us, come with us. It's okay. No, that he wants to back into the house. I mean, it's like this crazy, what is he doing, And you can't figure it out. And so finally I'm just like, I just got to leave him, And I get in the car, sit down, and my dad says, he never, I don't know. He just brings things up funny, but he doesn't look at you, He's like, I don't tell you very much about parenting. He said, I don't think I've ever told you anything about parenting. He said, but sometimes kids don't know what they want. You just tell them what they need.
That was gold right there.
That's
gold.
Yeah.
That's gold.
We're always giving kids options. And
Yeah.
he's like, kids don't understand what they need. You just tell them what they need.
Well,
I'm
take
like,
that
okay.
for a healthy herd gift that statement was in the world that we live in right now, where we prioritize, rightfully so, free will, but we have so many choices that guilt creeps into parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, well, I should give them more choice.
Right.
When
I
really
want them
wisdom,
to be happy.
Yeah.
Right, but wisdom is like, no, it probably would help them if you gave them structure and maybe made a few decisions to get them on the path, and you can open up freedom.
It's for their benefit. Going back like to the buffalo analogy, what was coming into my mind when you were saying that is we were talking how when they herd together that they're almost impenetrable.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, with the calves being in the middle, they also can't get out. So you're protecting them from themselves because they probably want to get out and play and run and chase each other.
Well, the truth is, if I would raise Preston again, he is a rules person. So he wanted you to give boundaries. He didn't want the options.
Yeah, he needed structure
for you to define it for him.
He wanted
That's
it.
so good.
And he's a rules guy, and he just needed to know where the boundaries were, and then he would settle down. Like, he just needed to confidently know where the rails were.
Healthy tribes, packs, herds allow for distinction. This is what everyone's afraid of in a hyper-individualistic.
You're going exactly where I wanted to shift gears to.
Awesome.
Keep
Well,
rolling.
I want to hear how you want to think about it, but I was just going to say I just watched a documentary on wolf packs. The sickly and the elderly lead the pack. Not lead and influence. Well, they do to some degree. They're walking in front so they can set the pace and never fall behind. They didn't cease to be who they were, distinct and unique. The tribe, the pack, made room for them. That's safe for them. You set the pace because you're sickly or you're elderly. The next group are the young warriors. So they're able, if anyone tries to mess with that first pack, they're on them. The next segment is the women and the children. And so that young can go backwards as well. Then there's another segment behind them that is like the more senior wolves that can protect them as well. So they're surrounded. And then the leader of the pack is dead last.
He's bringing up the rear.
Now that is a healthy
That's a
model,
great
and there's some
picture, yeah.
spirituality in that.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure.
Right.
Like there's almost some kingdom of God, you know.
I was talking about the kingdom of God. I was thinking of Genesis 33, where Esau, just this is taking it somewhere else, but I don't know the context. But anyway, Esau and Isaac meet
He's like,
up.
just let me go.
Yeah,
Hey,
just get out of my
Esau
way.
and
He's gonna
Isaac
trump
meet
this.
up again after all these years of angst with one another, right? And they're going to go back to their father's house. And Isaac, Esau says, let's go. And his brother says, well, hang on a second. You go on ahead, and I'm going to lead on softly so that the young ones and don't die, and the sheep and the lambs and the young ones don't die.
Yeah.
And I think that's where individualism, wants to run ahead, run ahead.
Let me show you.
Whatever the consequences are for people behind me, who cares, right?
Yeah.
And the elder mentality is, I'm going to lead on softly so we don't kill some of the people in the back of the pack.
Yeah, no, that's
good.
exactly where my brain was going. If we put this in a work setting, when you're working within a team, one of the biggest red flags that stands out to me is when someone chooses themselves over the rest of the team, like whether it's pay, benefits, how they don't want to work over, any of that stuff where it becomes so individualistic. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't have a voice, but when that stands out for, hey, it's going to be about me, that's a red flag for me as to whether that person really fits our organization. Because as you've been coaching with us, that's been a big thing that everybody has said within Tunco, that is a biggest priority is fit. And over talent, what your degree is, any of that stuff, it's like, hey, how do you fit? And for me, fit is about, how do I get along with you? Am I willing to, I don't mean submit in a bad way, but you know what I mean? Be humble enough to let you shine when it's your turn to shine. Let somebody else. I don't have to always be the rock star. I don't always have to be out front. And talking about the pack and the herding, I don't know if you remember the Lion King movie, but at the beginning when I forget what the brother's name is. I want to say it was I think it was Scar or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the biggest problem was he wasn't willing. He lost. I mean, not Simba. Simba was what was the dad's name? Mufasa. So Mufasa was leading the pack, right? He was the alpha. He was the head lion, and he just couldn't. The brother couldn't handle that, and so he goes out and essentially creates a rebellion. And I think when we're talking about work, organizations, church, any of those things, the biggest things that goes into toxicity is individualism, and then as the group is control. If you won't allow things to expand and grow without trying to smash it, squash it, that's what I want us to talk about next, is that control factor as being a problem with the group think. I don't have a problem if we think the same. I do have a problem if you're like, you have to think exactly like me on all things. That's where I see
like
that
an
red
atmosphere
flag.
where you can't question. A question is not necessarily questioning, but people are trying to align themselves. They're trying to get their head and their heart aligned, right? If they're going to be one with you and loyal to you, their head and their heart have to align. Mm-hmm. They have to think through it, and whatever their threshold is for thinking and their emotion, like high joy, right? Yeah. So these things have to align to feel like you're a leader for me. And if you can't help me to think through it, and I can't question, and I can't talk, I can't,
or there's not another way for us to get to the same location. Just we're still going in the same way. Just maybe we take a little bit different route.
Because I said parenting. It's because I said, like that kind of leadership.
Yeah, don't even do as I say. Do as I say, not as I do. Even, which is a terrible lie.
Yeah. So, like for example, in politics, recently we had the Roe v. Wade overturned, and so certain people celebrated that. Certain people lost their mind about it. But people who would have historically been pro-choice, that said, okay, well, maybe Roe v. Wade didn't get it quite right, and this does need to be a states' right issue. Dude, they got crucified by
for being reasonable, yeah.
for saying, okay, well, maybe there is another way. Can we just have the discourse? Can we just have a conversation?
Yeah.
I'm not all of a sudden going pro-life.
Yes.
I can still be pro-choice and just be like, hey, maybe there's another way, not just try to reinstate it, because for how many ever years they could have codified it into law, but they didn't. They just left it back to the Supreme Court and Roe v. Wade. So
back to the herd, though. Like, okay, that's an idea, a societal idea. But we have individual ideas that we're living out our lives by, right? And sometimes they're toxic. Sometimes they're difficult. Sometimes they're not going to end well.
Right.
Right?
Well, so this is where I was talking about synthetic group identity or a false sense of group identity.
Okay.
If you are getting your group identity by where you land on Roe v. Wade, you don't have a real identity. But your brain is starving to connect with some group. Media is feeding us different positions of polarity, and our brain is going, okay, I don't have a family, I don't have a herd, I don't have a pack, I don't have a tribe, but they can be my pack. That's who I am. I can get my identity around being an activist for these values. Well, the problem is you need a deeper identity than that. That will never scratch the itch. So then what we do is then I shoot at you because you dared have a nuance about the position, because in these synthetic or falser senses of identity, there's no tolerance, because it's all based in you're either for me or
I get
against
an
me.
eye roll, though, sometimes, because, like, okay, you pull up on a car, certain name brand car, and it's got 1,000 bumper stickers on the back, and you roll up, you know who's driving it next. You know what you're going to see next, because the clothes and the ID and the whole way they present themselves is also going to fit with all of that. Right. And to me, the reason it's an eye roll for me is because of the synthetic thing. Is that really who you are, or is this just the environment you're in? Because what I've found is when you have discourse with some people, their brain power to wrap around this idea and articulate it is very fragile. They don't really have a deep core thing going on. It's just synthetic.
Because individuals and hyper-individualism, so we're not anti-individualism, there's some health there as long as you got a tribe.
Yeah.
But hyper-individualism puts me as the sole judge and arbiter of truth. So I look for groups that reflect me back to me. So I'm never really being challenged to grow. I'm only looking, who can I bless and endorse? And I like this group's opinion.
And not only now, even if you look for that on your own, now the algorithm is pushing that to you.
And you're getting your own facts.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
I want to clarify a little bit, though. Like, if I see somebody that's in that, where I have the inner eye roll, right, I don't immediately take that as the truth.
Correct.
Because somewhere there's a search inside of someone, right? So I'm not going to disrespect them.
Of course.
I'm not going to disrespect them, because I feel like they need the discourse. They need a balanced and a loving conversation.
And I'm describing it kind of as a meta when you don't have herd or tribe in healthy ways, healthy, life-giving, high-joy tribes.
Yeah.
You're going to lean into your individualism. You're going to formulate opinions, and then you only look in the world for that which reflects you back. You're not looking for something that could challenge your thoughts a little bit or help you grow. And then the algorithm sees what you like and then just feeds more of that back to you. And you get further and further away from nuance and subtlety. And like, you know what? This position might be more complex than it's being presented in the media.
Yeah. And all you got to do is look at every social app has a For You page now. And that's just solely based on what you've liked, what you've hovered over for 5 seconds or more, and it is just feeding it to you. I think, to Paul's point, we're all going to have some level of pretext that we bring to life. Ethnocentristic tendencies it's just part of the human nature.
Sure.
I think, but identifying the health or the unhealth in that, like you're saying, you're self-aware that is something that you're like, oh yeah, I assume that.
It can be a billboard for something synthetic, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just assume it.
Right.
But often.
Yeah, and you could, it could happen when you see somebody that has a Trump sign in their yard or a Trump bumper sticker. You're like,
Draw a
oh
conclusion.
yeah, there's a MAGA guy, and maybe they're really middle.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning, we got to throw one of the biggest misfits that's ever lived in the mix. Jesus is redefining healthy group and tribal identity. He'll say things like, you've heard it said, love people who are lovable. And it's like, what reward is that? I want to build a tribe to where you're open to people who don't think like you, don't look like you, and don't act like you. Matter of fact, they might even be an enemy, and I want you to grow into loving them well.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's a
That's
whole
an
different
upside
kind of
down.
tribe.
Yeah.
That's a healthy tribe because your elder
Yeah.
is teaching more elders that this is who we are. We're people who don't close our tribe off to people who scare us.
Yeah.
I've
We
seen
stay
people
open to them.
treat
Yeah.
kids that misbehave like bad kids.
Yeah. Right.
It's just so it's like terrible because now you're gonna turn them into a bad kid.
That
That's
wounds
right.
their identity.
Yeah. So if you will, I've said it before, and I think it's true that if you look at your kids on their best days, that's the kind of adults they'll be, and we need to parent to that view, right? Because if you just look at them in their behavior in the moment, right, and that's the same way with all humanity, right? If there's a moment here of misbehavior, or of a bad thought, or indiscretion, or whatever it is, like don't paint them in a corner.
No.
Yeah.
Call out their true self. That's what
Yeah.
elders in healthy communities do. Is they remind everyone who they are when they forget.
Right.
We all forget who we are.
Yeah,
I will
that's
probably
good.
forget who I am today, but a healthy tribe, Cliff, you come alongside. And
Usually
you're like,
happens
hey, Royce.
when you get in your late 80s. Forget who you are today,
Right.
and forget what today is it.
Right. But let me stay on topic here because this is critical for a healthy
You're saying
group.
I took you off topic.
Well, you've been doing
love
really
you,
good.
man. I love
But
He's weaving.
someone, a
He's
healthy,
weaving, wobbing.
healthy family. So we don't have to call it pack or herd. It's a family. Healthy family says, hey, Royce, do you have a minute? I'd like to remind you who you really are. And when you were rude to that waitress back there who's just trying to make a living, she probably had a tough day. Do you feel like you were reflecting the values of our tribe?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, no, I wasn't.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cliff. Thank you, Paul, for reminding me who I truly am. I'm going to go make that right. And I want to let them know. That's awesome. But we have to have those bonds and those permissions for us to ever be reminded of our true self.
Many people will run from that.
Because
Right,
it's always
confrontation.
it's been used wrong.
Yeah.
So
They'll run.
if we're putting this in the context of being a misfit,
Come on.
all right, I think part of that coaching piece of being an elder is being able to provide coaching the way the adult or the child or whoever it is that you're coaching needs to be coached. If it is my child, I can probably lead with more empathy because it's my child. But if it's political and it's something that I'm passionate about and you're passionate about, and we're all the way over here, and like we're really, really, it's a serious thing. How do that's where I think being a true misfit, but leading with compassion and empathy so that we can have the discourse.
When
Even if
somebody's more distant from you.
Yeah, when somebody's more distant, I think that.
AKA enemy.
Yeah, that's right. That's
AKA.
bringing in.
Well, you know what the definition of a brat is, right?
What's that?
It's somebody who acts like your kid but belongs to someone else.
Is that not the truth? Oh my goodness. Okay, but that's where this kind of tribe, if we bring the misfit of misfits in, he's challenging human dynamics to where tribes go off the rail.
Yeah.
And they become us versus them, or that negative term, tribal. He's like, no. I want to keep group dynamics healthy, but I want to redefine who you allow in and who you see. And he broadens it to humanity.
So let me
love people.
Let me jump in here and say, from a world stage perspective, in this year, I think we saw that play out whenever we bombed Iran, and you had one side of the media that was, really kind of being quite factual. I don't feel like they were over inflating Trump's. They weren't making a hero out of Trump per se, but they were talking about a plan that took. I mean, they had been planning that for 15 years. And so if you watched it, did you watch the interview with Pete Hegseth and then the other guy? I think
I did.
I think his last name was Kane. They did a really good job praising everybody from multiple administrations, not just Trump. I mean, this has been in the works for 15 years. But then certain outlets were so
Warmongering, or
no,
the other way?
They were so concerned that it was going to be a win for Trump. And I think Hegseth nailed it when he came in there and ate the media's lunch about that, because he was like, look, this is not about Donald Trump. This is about America and the safety of the world. And all they could pull it back to was this idea that they were overinflating how far that bomb had went down into, and that's all they could focus on, because they didn't want it to be a win for the Trump administration. And that's where I'm saying you get so much on, we just don't want him to have a win. That's all that matters, because he's not in my herd.
Right.
And that herd is bad.
And this is in every single human dynamic there is. And tribes can become toxic because they become us versus them instead of maybe a broader sense. And so that's an inward mindset. The Arbinger Institute lays all this out. Read their books. An inward mindset sees other people who aren't like you or have conflict with. You see them as a problem or an obstacle instead of a human being that matters like you matter, that has hopes and dreams like you have hopes and dreams. And that's taught by the misfit of misfits. So I got to put that in there a little bit. Yeah. So what I need to do is when I'm up against something where they could be an enemy, I want to remember their humanity. And I want to engage them at human value, not their ideology, not even their behavior. Now, I might need to keep myself safe if they're dangerous.
Yeah, but
I'm still going to treat them like a human.
That's the foundation.
Yes.
And then we're going to go up from there. We're going to go up from there.
Based on where they'll let us go. Yeah. I can't make them respond a certain way, but I must start with their humanity. If I treat them like a thing, we're not going anywhere.
But even if we go back to your example you said a while ago about being rude to a waitress.
Right.
If I'm like, hey, dumbass, why did you do that? That's going to be harder for you to receive than it is for me. But that's because in that moment, I'm not starting with, hey, I've done that.
Right.
I've done that a lot of times. Until I owned a restaurant, I was probably one of the world's worst customers in a restaurant.
You invite me to go inward towards you when you behave inward toward me. So when you treat me like a thing, then you've invited me to treat. And most of us, that's just how we act. So
and we're always going to go first to our fight or flight reaction.
Right.
That's what's going to happen.
But if more of us would be aware when we act like that, or triggers where we might treat someone as an obstacle because it's a tough situation, and you just say, so I've been coaching quite a bit, throw this out here, I call it triple S. When you have conflict, high tense moment, big emotions hit, and you're like, that is the temptation to treat someone like a thing because, sucker, you're a problem in my life right now.
Yeah.
Okay, but the moment I did that, I took away their humanity.
What's the first S, sucker?
I'm going to get there. Yes, sucker. Sucker. Oh, yeah, my text is coming out. But, okay, so very quickly.
Sucker. No, listen here. You ain't going to treat another lawyer like that.
You ain't going to come in here and tell another lawyer to shut his mouth. Okay, so when there is an opportunity to treat someone as a thing or an obstacle or lose sight of their humanity, doesn't mean they're right or you agree. So put that out there. Stop, first S. Stop, taking a breath.
Stop, sucker.
Taking a breath. Pause. Don't just run through based on the big emotion. Just take a breath. You could have a moment of meditation, a moment of just quiet prayer under your breath. Just like, give me
reset.
Then C, look at the person no matter what they've done.
C, okay, not like the letter C.
Just see with your eyes that they're a human. They have dreams. They have hopes. They have flaws. And then connect that you have some of those too, dreams, hopes, and flaws. Okay?
See, sucker.
Can't get past it. Then serve. Stop, see, serve. Serve is then ask yourself the question, this is before you've behaved. How can I bring good into this situation? How can I serve the situation? Even if you're upset at them, how can I bring good to the situation?
I think being a believer and a follower of Jesus is like being a cultural ambassador. Back in the day when they did exchange students, from different parts of the world, that did a lot to heal the animosities between nations because leaders' kids coming to colleges or to schools and just being a part and making friends, and it just quelled the madness sometimes in those fractious situations. And I think that we are like cultural ambassadors. If you really are a believer in Jesus, you're going out into society. You have a bent right? But you're not making the assumption that everybody is like you, neither do they need to be, and you're an ambassador, right? You humanize the discourse.
Yeah.
And we show healthy group behavior.
Yeah. And
Transcendent.
is an example of serving, like if you're a white middle-aged American and you're having a conversation with someone whose people have been whose tribe and herd has been oppressed, like literally, not fictitiously.
No.
I find that if you're more empathetic and honest about the fact that that has happened,
Mm-hmm.
it's
And how
more
they see the world.
Yeah, it's
how they
more
see you.
likely that you can have a good discourse, a good conversation, and actually gain trust with whoever that person is that you're trying to talk to, instead of spending time trying to act like it didn't happen, or
Absolutely.
or don't try to be a revisionist or all of that bullshit that kind of comes out, because at that point all you're doing is trying to defend your pack's identity, and so you're not seeing them where their position is at. You're just, I'm over here, you're over there, you stay on your side of the playground, I'll stay on my side of the playground, and we'll be fine. But you're never going to get anything done when you have to work together to build a new play place or whatever it is.
So good. Us versus them is driven by objectifying the opposition, whoever they are. You turn them into a thing. The moment you see that we share humanity, you cannot maintain an us versus them in an unhealthy way. You may not be on the same side of an issue. You may not agree, but you cosmically announced, we're both human beings.
Yeah.
And you matter and I matter. So when I stop, see, and I've declared their humanity, another thing you can do, so you could say, what does the situation require? But in some conversations, the best thing you could say is, what does this person need from me right now? That's serving. Because you're calling them a person, not a thing, an obstacle, or a problem. What does this person need from me right now?
Yeah.
And then dare to serve in kindness and love. It doesn't mean you compromise your values, but you're trying to connect with a human.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to find our place in the herd. Like defining yourself and maybe challenging your own self to step up.
Yeah.
Right.
So at what point in a wolf pack, if you've got an alpha,
Right.
at what point do you challenge? Because you're not going to be the alpha for eternity. That there has to be some kind of challenge
Right.
that comes up. But then once you lose, you have to decide, you have to be like, okay,
There's a lot
that
of
person's the new alpha, or you got to leave the herd.
there's a lot of drama in succession.
Mm-hmm.
In business, spiritual environments, families, like a lot of drama. My dad, once again, what he said, most of the drama that you see is really driven by the person going out. If they don't have the maturity to step back, then drama ensues. So succession, an attitude of succession as you're leading, to always be thinking, I'm backfilling for a future. I'm creating a legacy. I'm preparing for something bigger than me. This is not about me. This is about the tribe, right? So you have to squash that sense of your own purpose to think about the herd.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's worth mentioning in Misfit of Misfit teaching about new tribe dynamics, new groups, new family, new kind of family. The alpha never weakens because the alpha is Jesus himself. And I know this could sound to anyone as hyper idealistic, but for someone following, that alpha never weakens because he sets a model of excellence.
Yeah.
That
we
you can achieve,
all become more of like an elder brother, and our leadership constantly, because put it this way, do I ever think I'm going to achieve a level of goodness
Right.
and self-sacrifice and wisdom that would dethrone Jesus as an alpha,
Right.
for those who follow that.
Yeah.
But in that, it does release me to feel like this alpha
That's
is
good.
going to shine
Yeah.
constantly, and then we can work as equals. Even in business, if I lead, I try to lead every aspect of my life to the reality that I'm not the final authority.
Yeah.
Like I have an alpha that I'm answering to. My rabbi.
We were talking over coffee about something about that. Protector versus what was the
predator.
Yeah.
Predator.
Yeah.
Talk about that a minute. That was good.
Well, Jim Wilder, all credit there, said that the single unique characteristic of spiritual maturity is that all predator has been grown out and drained out of you.
You've shed it.
You've shed the
that
quality of
from
wanting to feed on other people as things that sustain you. And all that's left is protector. Because you see the value of others around you, and you want to protect them. And I'll just say this, put it out there, man.
It's like the vampires in Twilight.
Oh man, that's just like no, I know. But I would just say, what if the world had more protectors? And what we do if we aren't careful with hyper individualism is you're feeding predation. You're feeding the mindset of a predator. Is like, I got to get mine. And who do I need to step on? Because they're just the thing. If they're weak enough to let me get it from them, then they deserve it. But if we thought more like protectors, we actually create families and groups that bring life.
And that's some of the stink that I have with some of this over the top mentality that you hear in various podcasts about. I am getting mine. I'm gonna, it's so alpha.
Business stuff you talk about.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention any names, but if you listen to enough of the top podcasts, and I'm just like, hey, I don't mind, like, hey, I'll be hard to drive myself and working out or whatever.
Discipline.
But that's not a motto to live all of life by, because if for me, where that gets all in a gray area is as a CEO, the main misfit that we're talking about, he can be my true north, and I can say that's and I can say that it can be truth, it cannot be a lie, it can be a real thing. But if I'm not humble and submitted to how my leadership impacts my herd, I can still be leading the herd in the wrong direction.
Yes, sir.
Even though I could be saying one thing, but the way the outcomes are coming out, it can be way off.
Well, I think that's like a pseudo success anyway. What they're touting, on those podcasts and that sort of thing is a pseudo success. When you look at the actual facts for great companies, just like Jim Collins' book, talks about the level 5 leader.
Yeah,
it's actually a very different picture than that picture.
Correct.
It's not an alpha looking picture. It's a real servant-hearted protector. Down on the bottom, leaders eat last kind of an approach.
Yeah, very much.
Well, and we've got to get back to some
Those
healthy...
guys aren't leading big teams. Their teams are very small. It's more like entourage.
Yeah, they're making an idol out of themselves.
Yeah.
And I promise you, because the coaching that I'm doing and have done for 30 years, I'll just throw it out here, like mega churches. I think without exception, I'm talking about tens of thousands, up to tens of thousands. You work with their staff. Almost 100% of my coaching conversations with them over 30 years, they have been in a low joy state.
They're being driven.
And what I was getting at is those environments that are like that, most of the people functioning and working are not in a high joy state. That is a problem, which means they're having to lean into obligation and slavery to some kind of the sense of debt and obligation to what they have to do. They're not in a high energetic state. So much of that is
imploded. We did the whole podcast. It's like it's imploded.
Yeah. And I mean, people, they just get chewed up. And so I'm saying, like, the thing like the church can become a machine where people are just things that they throw into it like a wood chipper to keep it going.
But if we go back to the child, tell the order again? Child,
infant, child, adult, parent, elder.
Yeah. So once you're getting into that adult elder stage, if we're getting there correctly, if I go back to my business model, I start to understand that, we say at Tunco that human capital is one of the most irreplaceable assets in a company. That's a true thing. I can say that, it can be a true statement, but if I don't lead in that, it's just a slogan on a website somewhere, it's something you said, essentially all I'm doing is virtue signaling.
Right.
And so I think as leaders, what we have to do is get to that place of maturity to where we're at an elder state to know that people are capital, but they're not things. Right. They're not tools.
Don't you think we make mistakes? I think
of course,
the biggest I guess, course correction for me has been that my methodology didn't work. That my ideologies, or whatever they were, flawed ideologies, got outed, and I got the consequences back on me, and I learned hard lessons. Right.
Yeah, and some of that, I mean, let's just be honest here. Some of that is how we're going to learn as humans.
We have to fail.
I mean, there's no, I mean, we can be. It's like Tim Keller would always say. He's like, he said, in my 40s, if I could go back and talk to the guy in my 20s, I would be a much different person. But that's just not how life works.
No.
And until we until we invent a time machine, we're not going to be able to do that. So I think we do have to have grace for whoever we were in our teenage years. Yeah, that's just going to happen. But I also think by having that grace for us, it makes us a better elder, because that we don't forget that the 20-year-old that we're working with right now, we were there too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people rewind the tape of their story, and they get a kind of a victim mentality. This happened to me, that happened to me. But a lot of times when I roll the tape back, I'm like, I did that, and that's the consequence I got.
Right.
I did that, and that's the consequence I got.
And that's the difference in the maturity. If you roll the tape back and all you see is what happened to you, you're going to stay at whatever that level is.
Exactly. You're going
But by rewinding the tape back and being like, yeah, maybe some stuff did happen to me, but I did a lot of shit on my own.
Right. It's like when a teenager that had a traumatic event, and then they get locked into that place in their life, and they just always are a teenager,
But they won't be that if they remain in healthy family and community.
In a herd, yeah.
Because that healthy coaching and correction will call us past those places of getting stuck. Yeah. And I want to just echo something you said just a couple of sentences back. If you want to know if you're a part of a healthy group, is it preying upon the people in it, or is it protecting them? And not in an unhealthy protection, like I'm going to protect you from growing or thriving, or I'm going to protect you from ever making a mistake. No,
not helicopter mom.
No, but the protection meaning is that you have value and you're seen as a human.
Yeah.
You're not an object.
That goes back to your point of shedding the predator mentality and going to
That's how
protector.
you'll know. And I mean, I'm just appalled at the amount of environments I've been in that claim to be a life-giving environment to the world and on social and on their signs.
Yeah.
But yet the people who serve in that are starving for joy because they're being preyed upon.
So one example I have of that happened in the last few years, I believe her name was Kirsten Sinema. I don't know if I'm getting that right, but she was a senator from Arizona and Democrat. And I can't remember what won't get these details right, but I was at the All In Summit in California, and she was a speaker, and she was stepping down as a Democrat, and she actually switched to be an independent, but then she didn't run again. And she said because she was going to vote for a bill that she felt like benefited Americans, but it had the support of Republicans and Donald Trump, Chuck Schumer called her. This is on record. I'm not saying anything that's...
Yep.
Chuck Schumer called her and said, you cannot vote for this bill. And she was like, excuse me, I don't work for you. I can do... And he basically said some pretty mean things. And then they abandoned her. And she's like, I didn't leave my party. My party left me because I made a choice.
Isn't that the way you usually separate from a herd, though? It's just like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we'll kind of wrap with this. I never thought I would say this a few years ago, but Bill Maher, he does the Bill Maher Show, and then he's got a podcast called Club Random. If you haven't listened to the podcast that he did with Kid Rock, you need to do yourself a favor and listen to it. But Kid Rock and Bill Maher kind of got into it a little bit about Donald Trump and like who really is Trump, whatever. And Bill Maher has been saying this for a few years now. He's like, I didn't leave the left. The left left me.
Yeah. I've seen some of those clips.
Right?
It's been very interesting.
Yeah.
His balance, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's not the Bill Maher I know.
I can't help but respect his authenticity about it, his honesty.
Kid Rock's real name is Bob. And so, and he's tight with Trump. And so they start going back and forth. He's like, Bob's like, hey, Bill, I want you to come have a dinner with me and Trump. And it kind of started out as ha funny at the beginning of the podcast. And then by the end of the podcast, they're basically like getting it set up. And so if you go online and look, there's pictures of Donald Trump sitting at the head of the table and Kid Rock and Bill Maher. And so Bill Maher does a follow-up to it and it's like a 10-minute little. He's the funny thing is, he holds up a piece of paper, and these are all the list of things names that Trump called Bill Maher.
Oh,
and I mean, it's a list, Jack. He's reading down.
Sucker
through.
was Sucker was one of them.
That's quadruple S.
So when Bill Maher comes to the White House, he brings that list.
See, Sucker.
That's what he led with, and he was holding it. Donald Trump had signed it.
That's cool. That's funny.
So, and he said, you know what? It's about a 10-minute piece, but in general, just to condense it, he was like, none of my friends are going to like this. But he said, you know what? He said, the guy that Donald Trump is that I don't like on camera is not the guy I met for dinner.
Wow.
He said he was funny. He was genuine. He was caring. He even bantered back and forth about, Bill Maher threw some insults at him and he just laughed at him.
Yeah.
He's like, he is not the guy. And he said, we have got to find, he was basically just pleading with America to be like, okay, have your opinion, have your stance, but let's at the end of the day, remember we're human and we're American. And let's try to find some middle ground to go forward.
That's the most
and I'm like,
Christian
dude,
thing for an atheist to do I've ever
that
seen.
is, that is awesome. And I just feel like we can be misfits. Bill Maher can be Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's certainly going to keep being Donald Trump. Yep. And we can have those positions, but still sit down at a table together.
Yes.
And who would have ever thought Donald Trump, Bill Maher, and Kid Rock would be having dinner together in the White House, right? But that's an example of,
think about
they found healthy group identity in that.
Think about your own family and your adult children. I mean, how many of us, when we have our adult children, have a queued up conversation somewhere in our head that we're waiting to have?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're not listening. We're rather trying to stage ourselves for what we want to say next. We have to listen too.
Yeah. So that's
instead of always being queued up.
If we're going to Dale Carnegie, that's seeking to understand.
No, what I'm saying though is that you're still in tribe with them. Mm-hmm. You're still loving them. You're not bringing these things out, but you have a list.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's not that you're not breaking fellowship,
Gotcha.
and you're not treating them based upon this conversation that's for them, not for you.
Yeah, and you're not compromising yourself,
right,
by listening to them
or devaluing them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, I know we're at the end, but I think it would be worth throwing out like what are 3 ingredients to a healthy, and they're quick.
Okay.
High joy. Everything starts with high joy. We're having such an awesome conversation because
are we going to hold hands again?
Why don't we?
No, get out of here. I was just kidding.
Why do you break the chain?
It feels weird.
The chain's only strong as
no,
the
it
weakest
doesn't
link,
feel
Paul.
weird. It's just weird.
I mean, I know your chain was made in the 1700s, but
Hi, Joy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's my job to interrupt every once in a while.
joy in the brain is I'm glad to be with you. We're having this conversation and it's just flowing because we're glad to be together. What institutions, and I'll speak to the church, tends to get wrong is they start with correction. Then they tell you what the group identity is. They demand that you commit to it. And they promise that you'll have joy if you do those things. And businesses can do that. And churches and communities, those become toxic because they're treating you like a thing. Okay.
So they're leading with
that's
control.
really good.
They're not leading with who you are.
Right. But the healthy brain process for a thriving group identity or healthy family is joy comes first. We want to create environments where people feel a delight to be with others. Now, if I'm acting like a jerk, I'm going to lower your joy. Well, somewhere I need to realize, don't do those jerky things, Royce, so you raise the joy.
Yeah.
We start with joy. High joy environments lead to bonding among humans. You want to be around people who raise your joy.
Yeah.
Then we begin to realize who we are together, not just your identity and my identity, but our identity as misfits on Misfit Social.
Right. Yeah.
And lastly, that group identity, especially in a world where it's faint and weak, we need to practice it. So something I've been saying with the groups that I'm learning from, here's a core one. We are a people who elevate the status of everyone we meet to that of being God's child. Now imagine if you said that just every now and then. We are a people who elevate the status of everyone we meet to that of being God's child.
That's a great life mantra.
But then we start.
Hey, let's all go get that tattooed.
The last thing would be coaching or correction. The last thing you do once you've established high joy, bonds, and a sense of identity in the group is, do you have a moment? I'd like to remind you who you are. Did we just elevate the status of that person?
Right.
Or did we lower their status?
Right.
That's not who we are.
Yeah.
We elevate status.
Yeah.
We don't lower it.
That's awesome. So as we wrap on the Misfit pod here, we're not saying you shouldn't be individualistic on some level. That's
Distinct,
great. That's
unique,
great.
yes.
We're not saying you have to be in a herd or anything where you have to be controlled. What we're saying is let's just see everybody as human, not for something that we feel like they are or we feel like they believe. Let's see them hold hands, sing Kumbaya.
Kumbaya, my Lord.
All right. Love you guys. It's
Love
been a
you.
good talk, deep talk, and hope everybody has a great rest of your day. It's been another episode of Misfits Social Podcast. Let's go.